Hello, and for my final aviation career project, I'm doing a PowerPoint on airline pilot. I will put the link to this video on the PowerPoint, and that way you can click on it and go through the PowerPoint here at the same time. Let's get started. Alright, so at first, your first step really is getting your private pilot certificates and all your certificates. But the private pilot certificate, your age requirement is 17 years old. Applicant must be able to read, speak, and understand English. Must be able to pass a third-class flight physical from an aviation medical examiner. Uh, it's obtainable at a minimum of 35 hours and having passed an aeronautical knowledge test, which is computerized. You also have to pass a check ride once you've finished all your testing with a authorized examiner. Your next step would be working to getting your instrument rating. You have to hold a private pilot certificate for this. And again, you must understand English clearly, be able to speak it, write it. Same as your private. You have to hold a current medical certificate. There is also another knowledge test that is required, and you have to pass it with a 70%. And I believe that goes for all the knowledge tests, 70% or higher. It's obtainable within 50 hours, and the instrument rating will also have another check ride. After your instrument rating, you're going to be moving towards your commercial certificate. This one you have to be 18 years old, and you can achieve this within 250 hours. This one contains a lot of new maneuvers. It's going to be perfecting them. You have to have an IFR rating for this, and there's another knowledge test to pass as well. And then you go on to your check ride. Alright, next. So after commercial, this is kind of where people can start kind of going their own way. There's different ways that pilots tend to build up their hours. Some popular choices are flight instructor, missionary pilot, and jump or skydiving pilot. Let's get into some of those. So, if you go flight instructor route, which it's one of the most popular among new pilots looking towards working up to the airlines, you will have to get your CFI, and you need to pass an authorized FAA examiner's check ride with that. Then you can get CFI 2, which you can get. I don't believe it has to be. It's another examiner check ride, but I think it's less. Or it's not like a FAA examiner. I think any examiner can give it to you. You must be at least 18 years old. There's a knowledge test for that as well. And an FOI, which is Fundamentals of Instruction, and you must pass that. The FOI basically covers like how to properly teach and give lessons and stuff. Next would be missionary pilot, and a lot of these organizations also require their pilots to hold an A&P certificate so they can work on the plane when they're in these sparse areas. The minimum hour requirement varies between companies. MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship, requires 400 hours and 50 hours high performance. A certain amount of college level Bible training may be required as well. MAF requires 12 hours, I believe. Often pilots are required to come up with their own funds for the mission. Your local church, family, and friends often help you reach your goal. It's a lot of work to get started, but it's a very rewarding job. Plus, you can build your hours and kind of learn how to fly in tougher terrain, which can help you in the long run. Jumping skydiving pilot. So you need a commercial certificate for this. Most flights are only around 30 minutes long, so it can take a long time to build your hours up. It will really improve your stick and rudder skills, but your instrument skills, due to flying VFR all the time, may be hurt. The pay isn't that great either, if I remember correctly. I think it's per load instead of salary based. Prior training with a jump pilot is required before you can start flying people. Organizations may require a minimum hour limit as well. So after you get your hours built up, you can start getting looked at by a regional airline. So they're going to require obviously commercial instrument rating, multi-engine, and you should be at least close to requiring or obtaining your ATP, Airline Transport Pilot Certificate, which is acquirable at 1,500 hours. And if you're at least close, a lot of companies will pick you up and then they'll pay for you to push you through the ATP and get you all set up with their company. The minimum age for this is 23, and regionals like to pull young pilots into this. So after that, you are going to be looking towards your national carriers and your legacy airlines. So it's gonna take a little bit of time to get up there because you got to work through your FO, and then once you become a captain, you have to work there too. And it's between 1,500 and 2,000 more hours before you can start getting looked at by those guys. College degree, just like the regional, it's preferred, but it's not required, especially due to the pilot shortage. But especially with the national carriers and the legacy airlines, they are really going to hire somebody with a degree first. So it's good to have. Okay, pay. Okay, here we go. So with the pay, flight instructor, it's between 25 and 61,000 with an average of 38,000. The missionary pilot, this one jumps around a lot. Mainly, I think it's because just there's so many organizations out there, and really you got to fund yourself, and you're basically building the funds for your pay. But it's between 45 and 129,000. Here's the skydiving one. So the jump and skydiving pilot, so they're paid per flight, and it's only $15 to $20 per load. So I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's probably pretty fun to do. Regional pilot, you're looking at 36 to 54,000, depending on the airline. National carrier, this is where it really starts to jump up quite a bit. This one is between 36 and 151,000. It's got an average of 79,000. And then once you get to the legacy pilot, that's really where you start making, actually in the national carrier you really start making money, but the legacy pilot, it's between 106 and 251,000, and the average is 195,000. So the money's always good. And then let's get into our last slide here, which is I did it life, So in the beginning, it's long hours, and to even get all your certificates, it's a lot of money. So you're putting a lot into this. But once you get hired by an airline, life is going to become much more leisurely. I think it's around 2 weeks off a month you get, which is amazing. And most importantly, pilots enjoy going to work, and that's just so important for your way of life. Like, when you enjoy going to work, it's not really work, and that's really what matters. That's my video. Thanks.